everybody, it's Mindy and I'm back with another tutorial for Neat and Tangled. Today we're going to be using the Hello Spring stamp set and the coordinating dies, and we're also going to be using the friendly florals. Now we're going to be doing two different coloring techniques today. So first I want to practice using Copic markers. So we're going to practice blending. And I always encourage people to practice blending and to use those pieces of scrap papers that you're practicing with onto your cards. So that way you don't feel like you're just wasting your time and your paper and your ink on all these products and then not even doing anything with them. So I always like to kind of incorporate that. So that being said, I went ahead and I took the large background die right, or stamp, and I embossed it with a clear embossing powder. And then I trimmed it down, and now I'm going to use my Copic markers to create a gradient, and it's going to have a really cool effect, and it's almost like its own pattern paper. So we're going to start, I used a teal color combination, so we're going to use BG18, BG15, BG13, BG11, and BG10. And we're going to start at the bottom, and we're going to go dark and all the way up to light. So you're going to want to take off your cap, and you're going to start at the end, and you want to go to the very, very edge of the paper. So that way there's no white. And I'm just going to flick going up. And as you can see, I've already embossed the stamp, so you're able to see that little bit of shiny coming through the Copic ink, and you're able to see the words through the ink. So that was my BG18. Now I'm going to take my BG15 and I'm just going to keep moving up. So I'm doing that flicking technique, and a lot of people get confused and they say that they can't get the whole flicking technique. So what you're going to want to do is, and it's kind of hard to tell when you're going off of the paper with the darker color, but you see how much darker it is right here, and now how much lighter it is on this side. So now when I go to lay down my next color, which is the BG15, it's already gonna be that much lighter up here, so it's easier to blend in with the next color. So now I'm gonna go back into part of the BG18 that we laid down already, and I'm just gonna flick going up, pushing the end here. It's kind of not erasing, but you're blurring out that line. You're blending the colors through, so that way you have that nice smooth gradient. And another thing that people get, is always a question is, what kind of paper am I using? I'm using the Copic Express It blending card. This is my favorite paper for coloring with Copics because of all of the layers that I put on it. So that is the #1 paper that I recommend. So now I've laid down my BG18 and my BG15. So I'm going to get my BG13, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to continue moving up through the whole paper. So I'm doing that heavy flick, and you could see that it's lighter up on the opposite end where from the opposite side that we laid down our marker. And now I'm going to go with my next color, which is BG11. And I'm going to go right in between those two colors, or in between, right on over that BG13, really getting that blend in between those colors. And I could tell my ink is a little dry. This marker needs to be filled. So you could see a little bit that, let me see if I could zoom, where you could see the difference between the two. So since it's not that smooth. So now I'm going to go back with my BG13. And I'm going to start back here where I first started with the BG13. And I'm going to do a heavier flick, so that way I can kind of get rid of that line. And then I'm going to repeat my BG11. And it kind of softens it up a little bit by adding that extra layer. So I have just a tiny bit of white left, so I'm going to take my BG10, and I'm just going to continue all the way up to the edge of the paper. Now, since I want this to be a little bit more dark to light, I'm going to go back over my BG18 adding that extra layer of ink just to give it that a little bit more dimension. That's also another way when you're coloring and you don't have that good blend, or sometimes it looks kind of mucky and the ink is not blending. Sometimes you need that extra layer of ink in order to get the colors moving on the paper a little bit better. So now I'm going to take my BG15, and again, I'm just going to repeat everything that I just did. So that way I have a nice smooth gradient and all of the ink is blending together well. And you don't have to even emboss anything. You could use these on your die cuts, which I'm going to show you in a second. But you could do this on your scrap pieces of Copic Express It paper, and you could even go from, if you're going from blue and having, yellow up here, and have them kind of meet in the middle, and then you could take all of those scraps and you can cut out your word dies, so that way you always have, and then just stick them in like a little container for your sentiments. And anytime you need a sentiment, just go through what you've already done and pull one out. That's also another great way to practice coloring and blending your Copics, and then using your, kind of like recycling your projects. Okay, so kind of got off track there. I used the BG15. Now I'm going to take my 13 and repeat. And then my 11 again. And also going over it that second time really brings the words out if you do emboss the background. And so now I'm going to do my BG10. All right. So what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to just mount this on a couple of layers here before I stick them on my card. But I wanted to get to the word dies. So I've already cut out, I love this die set. It cuts out the words very thin so you can actually see the word. That's the green one. And then it gives it, and then you also have the option to die cut the outline, so that way you have that outline. And what I did was I actually stamped, using the spring, I stamped this stamp in Versamark, and I stamped it onto the teal cardstock, and I embossed it. So then when I die cut the words out, so now you can see that it's embossed and it has this nice little shiny shimmer to it. And then I just die cut the outline, the background in white, so that way I mounted it on, I've already glued it on. So we're going to also use that on our card. So the second thing that we're going to be doing is coloring this small little flower onto our card base. So I've already stamped it, and we're doing the no line coloring, so I stamped it in my Memento ink. And I didn't get too elaborate with the design, with the details in the flower coloring, because I wanted the main focus really to be the background that we've just created here. So, but I did want to add just a little bit of color. So what colors you're going to need is YG63, G20, E55, YR15, and YR20. We're going to start with our G63, and along the bottom of the leaves, I'm just going to trace going up. So I'm just outlining the image just from the bottom. And I wanted this to kind of look like a real soft, almost like a watercolor look. You know, I didn't want to get too detailed. And you, even if you go out of the lines a little bit and you can't see it, since it is the note line technique, you won't be able to tell. But that also gives it that the watercolor technique look. So then I'm going to do this leaf over here, just along the bottom, and then I'm going to trace down the center of the stem. All right, and that's it for that. Now I'm going to go ahead, actually, you know what, in between these leaves, I'm just going to make another little line. Going up the center. So now I'm going to take my G20 and I'm going to start at the opposite end of the bottom part of the leaf that we already colored, and I'm just going to lightly follow it all the way in, where I'm just filling it in, just filling the rest of the leaf in. That way it's really soft. It starts to blur down here, so it's blending those colors, but it's not overpowering, so that way that background that we created is going to stand out, but this is going to give it that pop of color. So now we're going to do the exact same thing with for the flowers, and I'm using the YR15 and YR20, so just 2 colors, so very, very simple. This is a great way to practice, you know, or if you're just starting out with using Copics. So I'm going to take the YR15 and I'm just going to go in the center of the flower. So those are the petals that are on the back. These are the petals that are in the front. So I'm just going to go along the bottom. So it's the same thing, just like how we did with the leaves. And then down here too, I'm just going to do the bottom part of this little flower. And now I'm going to fill it in with the YR20. So I'm going to start at this end over here, and I'm just going to push the color, filling in the rest of the flower. Now, if you're wondering, this is actually not Copic paper that I'm using. That's another reason why I'm not getting into many details, because it won't be able to stand all the different layers of ink that I would originally put on, and it would start to really seep off of the page. So I'm really keeping this very simple and not as many layers. Now, I do want to take my E55 or any other brown, and I want to add a little bit of definition for this flower over here. So that way we could really tell the difference between all 4 of the petals. So I'm just going to, again, very, very small little flicks in the center part and also along the bottom. And just so it matches, I'm not going to go all the way where as much as we did the YR15, but I just want to add a little bit. So now I'm going to go back and when you're coloring something orange, you can't really use like the grays to deepen the color or to shadow it, so you have to use the browns. So, and I don't want it to appear brown, so I want it to be a darker version of the orange. So I'm going to go back over it with my YR15 and just give a little flick, replacing that brown, making it that darker orange. Very, very, very subtle. So now I'm going to go back with my YR20, and I'm just going to blur that harsh line. So I'm just going to pull or flick, however it would be easier for you to kind of imagine yourself doing. So you could either think of it as flicking out that color to blend it or pulling it out. So again, I'm going to do this side over here. So just little baby flicks, just for that pop of color. Now I'm going to take my white gel pen, and all along the center part, so that way you can really tell that it's the actual center of the flower, I'm just going to make a whole bunch of little white dots for the center of the flower. And then I'm just going to add a couple over here just for a little shine. And that is it. So I am going to quickly put my card together, and then I will show you the finished card in just a second. Okay, so here we have it. We have our finished card, and we've used all sorts of different techniques with the embossing and learning how to blend our Copic markers. I hope you enjoyed this month's tutorial, and I will see you again next month.